Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
I named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints.
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my man who fought Captain America in the 80s and is just looking for a rematch. It's Red Guardian. How are you today, sir?
I prefer Crimson Dynamo.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's not true, though. What happened to your accent?
I've been drinking not enough Russian vodka and too much American IPA. So that's
I was going to say,
yep,
that's good.
That was it. Yep.
That's good. You didn't say India IPA, although it could have gotten a little dicey.
Well, the I in IPA is India, so that's
I know. Yeah. Anyway, Frank, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. What are you drinking?
I am drinking. Actually, I'm not drinking an IPA. I'm just drinking a pale ale, APA. A Great Rhythm Resonation Pale Ale, a double dry hopped pale ale from Great Rhythm Brewing here in the great state of New Hampshire. It is a pretty flavorful, but pretty light and drinkable pale ale that I am really, really enjoying. And this is just a few minutes away from me in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And it's a nice, lovely little brewery on a river. It's a nice little outdoor setting. And yeah, brought some beer home with me.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Great. What a good outing.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it in my Superman. This looks like a Superman. Looks like a job for Superman koozie. Because why not? But how are you, and what are you drinking?
I'm doing well. I am drinking not a beer. I am drinking something new for me. This was given to me. I'm very excited to have it for the first time on the podcast. It's called Cantina Especial Ranch Water, which is a tequila soda.
Oh my gosh, my wife has been drinking those the ranch water.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a white tequila or Blanco tequila with natural lime flavors and sea salt with carbonation added. 99 calories, 16 carbs, 0 grams of sugar. Born in Austin, Texas, Cantina is the perfect union of spirit and artistry. With a history dating back to the 1840s, our tequila is made from premium blue Weber agave in the heart of tequila, Jalisco. Born in Austin and Hacho and Mexico, this artisanal spirit is crafted with precision and passion. Saludos. Yeah, so I'm very excited to have this for the first time. My sister gave this to me.
Nice. Is it now? Marissa's been drinking some different flavored ones. Is yours flavored, or is it more of a straight up tequila?
Oh man, that's good. Wow, that's good. I need to get more of this immediately, and I only had one drink. This is ranch water. It says lime flavored, so I don't know if this one's specially flavored or if it's just regular. Wow, that's good. It's only a 5.6 alcohol content too. Nice. So like you go like tequila and you're like, ooh, then be fighting alcohol or whatever. Right. But that's no, this is no different than drinking a beer.
Nice.
Wow, that is delicious.
It's good, right? They're quite good. Marissa has been drinking another brand. The brand is actually just called Lone River Ranch Water is the one that she was drinking.
Okay.
And so I know that one comes in different flavors, but this one, the one you have, sounds quite legit because it's made in Mexico and all that. That sounds awesome.
It's from Texas,
but it said hecho in Mexico, which means made in Mexico.
True, hecho in Mexico.
But it's a Texan
born in
company.
Austin, made in Mexico. Oh yeah.
Nice.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah. I got these from a little place called Texas. Yeah. Speaking of a quote from the MCU, Frank, we're here to talk about the latest addition to the MCU filmography, and that is, of course, Black Widow, the long-delayed, finally arrived Black Widow. It's here. We saw it. We did not see it together.
No.
Maybe we liked it. Maybe we haven't. I have no idea what you thought about this movie. I have not talked to you in the slightest.
We have not talked about it at all.
All right. Well, this is very exciting. So before you even deliver to me if you liked it or didn't like it, did you see it in the theater or did you see it at home?
I saw it on Disney Plus.
Samesies, because I'm still not comfortable going back to the theater, especially since cases are a little bit on the rise again.
They are, yeah. I've gone to the theater once to see In the Heights, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, but I just didn't have time to go. So that's why I just was like, you know what, I'll plunk down a few bucks and watch this at home for the podcast. So
for the podcast,
for the pod.
For capitalism, no. For the podcast.
Here, Disney, you're really hurting these days. You really need my money.
You need my money so bad. But you know what? I split it with somebody, so nice. I basically paid for one ticket.
There you go. That's exactly right. Yeah.
So it was in my home. I got a nice TV. It's got nice sound. I was comfy. The only thing, though, I had to stop it like 4 times because, somebody came over to talk to me. The phone rang. Somebody came over, and all of a sudden, I'm like, it took me 3.5 hours to watch a 2-hour movie.
Right.
And I'm like, my God, I missed the movie theater. Like,
right?
No one talks to me. You just sit there in your glory for 2 hours and like shut up and leave me alone. Right. And I missed that.
Can't even have your phone on. Just no one can distract you, even if they want to.
Correct.
It's great. Yeah.
It is great.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Totally...
there is something about that because, I had to pause a few times as well. But I knew that's what I was signing up for, so that's fine. Okay, who's gonna reveal? First of all, spoilers for Black Widow. We're gonna be talking.
Yeah, we'll just go spoilers full in right from the beginning. If you haven't seen it, we'll go. Okay, we're gonna go out of 5 beers. How many beers do you give it? We never do this.
We don't know. I give it 4 out of 5 beers. I really liked it.
4 out of 5 beers for me too. Yeah.
I thought it was fun. It was funny. It was action packed. It dealt with some very serious things in a very heartwarming, not really heartwarming, but pulled at the heartstrings, right? And earnestly is thank you. That's a much better way of what I'm trying to say. It did all those things very well. I really enjoyed it. I had, we'll talk about, I'll get into what I thought, but so you also gave it 4 out of 5 beers.
4 out of 5 beers. This was great. This was one of the better MCU entries that I have seen in quite some time. I had almost no expectations going in because, truthfully, the trailers didn't sell me at all. I was like, this looks really generic, like even from Marvel, which is not like always generic, but it's certainly like it has a certain structure and you know what to expect and blah blah blah. And then the movie started. And less than a minute into the movie, I was like, this is not what I expected at all. This is great. I'm in. And it just kind of kept elevating the material for me. And Marvel so very rarely tackles something important and real, because that's not really its purpose. That's not what the MCU is for. It's meant to entertain you first and foremost, and it might hint at some things, like Winter Soldier hints at government oversight, and the dangers of that. Falcon and Winter Soldier goes into racial America.
Yes.
And so sometimes it does stuff, and other times it's like, hey, look, it's what do heroes do? We're on a trash planet. It's the devil's anus, blah blah blah. Yes. So it goes in wild directions. I thought, as a spy thriller, real fun, goes right in for Bond. There's some real fun Roger Moore level Bond stuff in here. Yeah. I thought, because at one point Natasha's watching Roger Moore Bond and she's like quoting along with it, and I think it was Moonraker actually, and then they go to the not the space station, but they go to the cloud station.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is good. This you've really you really thought about the type of story you want to tell. Very much like very much like Winter Soldier or something like that. That it's like, here's your political thriller with Captain America. Here's your spy thriller with Black Widow, and that's what I wanted. And the trailer sold and like a big action movie, and I didn't really feel that way about this. There are action pieces certainly, but that wasn't the point. And
I agree. I didn't really watch the trailers. I think I caught some of the TV spots on TV, but I did not actually go out of my way. And I mean, I did not hit play on a trailer, like I normally would for an MCU movie, because I was just sort of like, I was only so excited for this movie. It felt like sort of, I was kind of annoyed that they didn't just put it out on Disney Plus like last year, during the pandemic, all that stuff. And I was just sort of like, yeah, I'll see it, but I wasn't particularly excited about it. I also felt like it was way overdue, for there to be a Black Widow movie. So much so that like 5 years ago, when Scarlett Johansson hosted SNL, they did a sketch about like, oh, what if there was a Black Widow movie? So like it's very overdue. And so I went in with basically no expectations. I had just seen the TV spots, which only seemed to show like explosions and stuff. So I was like, okay, action. Like I know it's going to be an action movie. It's a Marvel movie. Of course it's action. Of course it's explosions. And I just sort of went with not much in terms of expectations, not really knowing what to expect, because nothing had really been teased to me. I didn't know who Florence Pugh or David Harbour were going to be playing.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you didn't know Florence Pugh at all.
I didn't know I didn't know who they'd be playing. Gotcha. So I was just like, I know she's in it. I know he's in it. What their relation is to Natasha, I don't know. And I really, really enjoyed it. That the family story that they told was at the same time like touching and depressing and funny. Like there was a surprising amount of comedic moments, like family sitcom type moments in the way that they interacted with each other, to a surprising degree for a movie that was dealing with some very serious topics. And
it's true.
It was done well.
I feel that's certainly part of the Marvel formula, right? It's never going to get you too down.
That's right.
That's part of because it's almost in a weird way. Marvel is almost weirdly like watching a sitcom. Like I don't watch it to bum myself out.
Right.
Like there are certainly elements of bumming, of depression, but that's not the whole point. Is hope and optimism and cheer and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, throw me the good stuff. But you're right about the family elements. That's a family style humor is a different humor than we have seen mostly in the MCU before. Yeah, there's been like there's quips and there's this, but the situational comedy, this is new.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, Florence Pugh's character was very funny. Like she was very quippy, and I found her extremely like funny and charming, and obviously tragic. In everything that happened to her and everything that she was made to go through. But she was such a funny, like, oh, this would be a fun way to die. This would not be. This is a less funny way to die. There were just so many great quips, and it was very, like the gallows humor that she embodied was very compelling for me. And I found that really, really fun.
Me too, because I found it true to Russian humor. Like it's very, very like the gallows humor. Like like the joke is in England you die for love, or in this you die for this, and this you die for this, and in Russia you just die. Like like in America you die for freedom, and here you France you die for love, and here you die for the Russia you just die. Like that's that's the humor that she embodied, right. And that David Harbour embodied. It wasn't like they were American or Western, like being Russian. They were Russian, and I really appreciated that because it's subtle, and even like the joke motif about like Black Widow's posing. Like what you drop down like everyone's looking at you, like
so funny.
Which is great. And then she does it, she's like, well, that was disgusting. Like,
and then when she actually does it, she's like, oh, what a poser.
Yeah, Exactly. But what I loved is that like that's a very American thing to like drop down and pose, superhero pose, blah blah, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And like to the Russian, she's like, I don't have time for that kind of nonsense. What are you like, we got stuff to do. And I felt that their sibling dynamic was very strong, especially since they weren't real siblings. And I think that's what is the strength of like the undercurrent of the film. It's like they, because Natasha doesn't feel like she's ever had a family. The Avengers is her family. She loses that. She's on the run, and so now she has this other family, like the first family that she lost, back again. And now here she is, like learning, like a Fast and Furious movie. Like there's nothing more important than family. You just half expect Vin Diesel to walk out of a closet and be like, family, and just walk back the other way. Yeah. And Florence Pugh, I've loved it. Fighting with My Family in 2019 was one of the sleeper hits of the year for me. Like I was like, yeah, sure, I'll see Fighting with My Family. Like, why not? And I was like, this movie's great. Florence Pugh is like masterful. And yeah, between that and Midsummer and Little Women and her like tiny little role in Father of the Bride Part 3 that they did on Zoom.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's great.
She's having a great couple of years, and I'm loving what I'm seeing from her. And I think this was maybe the most like endearing, let's say, role that I've seen her in, where I just felt the most sort of. I really, really liked what she did with this role. I found her very endearing, and then what they did with her character at the very, very end in the post credits.
Yes, I loved the post-credit scene. Now, what I found very interesting about the post-credit scene, this movie was supposed to come out before Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yes.
So this would have been the first time.
And okay, I think when we talked Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think I said, like, do you feel like we were supposed to have seen her before? Because I feel like we were supposed to have seen her before.
Yeah, I remember you saying that, and I was like, I don't think so. Because
I kind of think this is so. Like, clearly, this movie was slated to come out. Like, if we're in a world without COVID, this would have come out before Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This was announced to come out before.
Correct. Yeah. And we see Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and we're like, whoa, that's a new person. That's fun. But here we are, and like, what an interesting way to. I mean, it still works because
it still totally works.
But now I think I actually have a better sense of what she's about because of this. I'm like, you're putting together a team. You're anti-Nick Fury is what you are, because that's really what she is in the comic books, right? And so she's anti-Nick Fury. She's putting together the Thunderbolts, which I think is that's really fun. It's like the Suicide Squad from Marvel, right? The Thunderbolts. And so, you got your U.S. agent. You've got your new Black Widow. Your White Widow, your Red Widow, your Russian Widow, whatever you want to call. Maybe you get your Taskmaster back. Like there's like tons and tons of stuff going on.
I know. And so do you think? So they showed Hawkeye, right? They showed Clint's photo at the end, and that's who she's sending her out against. There is a Hawkeye series coming, right? Has any casting been announced yet? And like, is Florence Pugh known to be part of that show?
Not known to be part of it, but I think everyone's like, well, she is now. But like there's a couple of casting things out there that they have said, but they're all the heroes of the story. And so like, Clint's in it, Haley Steinfeld, is that her name? Oh my gosh. Haley Steinfeld?
Are you talking about Haley Steinfeld is an actor.
Yeah. Haley Steinfeld. Okay. Yeah, she plays Kate Bishop. She's like the Robin to Hawkeye. Yeah. According to IMDb, Florence Pugh is in it.
Yeah, that totally tracks then. I'm excited for that. I'm excited. So this is the first time we're really seeing them integrate the shows and the movies in a hardcore way. Like it's literally it basically said like, she will return in Hawkeye. Like it was just one thing short of that, of like the James Bond will return in Moonraker type thing.
I mean, and that's true. We would have. I mean, like technically, the shows have always it's because we're watching them in reverse now, right? So it feels like the show is now influencing the movie instead of vice versa. Yes. But yeah, although I heard. I mean, this episode will drop the same day that the Loki ends, but I heard that the end of Loki has serious implications for Spider-Man, which is why why Spider-Man comes out in 6 months and we haven't seen any kind of advertising for it at all because they're waiting until Loki's over. So we'll see.
That makes sense. And they have done that sort of thing before, right? Where like back when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was on ABC, weren't there some plot lines that came out of Winter Soldier or something? Was it Winter Soldier or was it Civil War?
It was Winter Soldier, because basically it was like S.H.I.E.L.D. episode, S.H.I.E.L.D. episode, S.H.I.E.L.D. episode. Oh, look, we're cleaning up after Thor in the Dark World. Ha, ha, ha. Blah, blah, blah. And then, boom, Winter Soldier hit, and everyone was like, S.H.I.E.L.D. is like, well, who's a Hydra agent, who isn't? That's really when the show...
That's what it was.
That's when the show really took off.
And so they've done some of that kind of integration before, but not this sort of two-way street type of thing. Mm-hmm. Like, you've had the TV reacting to the movies, but you haven't had the movies having an interplay, a real back and forth with the TV, where it's like you don't have to watch both. I guess you still could watch one or the other, but you're gonna get a lot more out of it and understand everything that's happening if you're watching both.
True. Well, that's part of the genius of the Marvel formula, in that it's never so complicated that you can't just watch one and not figure out what's going on.
Yep.
Even though, like, you'll obviously get the whole tapestry, you'll get the entire story if you watch everything, but you pick up what everybody's about pretty simply.
Sure.
And that's the beauty of comic books too. Let's talk about villains. There are two main villains in the film, and one traitor-ish character, right? So we have Rachel Weisz, Rachel Weisz's character, who she was the mom, and she Melina, and she kind of betrays. She kind of betrays them, but she's like, "Nah, just kidding. I'm on your side, baby." Funnily enough, Rachel Weisz is married to Daniel Craig, of James Bond and many other things fame. But these movies were actually competing for box office at one point, like pre-COVID, sure. and then going to be like during COVID. They almost came out around the same time and all that stuff. And one of them did an interview, and they were like, actually might have gotten a little heated in the house at one point. But anyway, yeah. So we have Rachel Weisz, who I thought she did a fine job. Not that she necessarily phoned it in, because she's great. She's good in everything that she does. But I think this, great, this was like, I know what I got to do. I don't think she did anything super special in the film necessarily. But she was good. She was fine. You can see where, Natasha might have even modeled a bit of herself on Melina and who she is, and at what points, because there's a point when in the getaway scene with Yelena and Natasha, when they're being chased by Taskmaster, and Natasha's like, "Put on your seatbelt." She's like, "God, you're such a mom."
I know. That's one of that.
And I loved that, and I think Melina was the mom, right? And so there is some kind of modeled behavior from her that way, which I thought was really cool and really subtle.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have two villains. We have Dreykov, played by Ray Winstone, and we have Taskmaster, played by Olga Kurylenko.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. Let's talk about Dreykov first. I thought he was one of the best MCU villains, bar none.
He was,
because of the real world application in a comic book form.
Yes.
This is a Me Too movement film using the subjugation of women as super spies. It's technically it's about sex trafficking, it's about sexual harassment, it's about this, it's about assault, and all of these things all combined into the Red Room, run by this sleazy dude, Ray Winstone, love him, played it like Harvey Weinstein.
He looked like Harvey Weinstein.
They went right for Harvey Weinstein. This is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. That whole thing with he got so close to everybody. He invaded everybody's personal space. Yes. And then and I thought that was a great acting choice. And then there's this thing about the pheromones that in the control. I'm that's even grosser. That's so weird and gross. And he purposely puts himself close up to people so he can then manipulate them even further. It was a really good layered idea, and I thought Ray Winstone came in and he did exactly what needed to happen.
Yes,
and
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, in a way, I was talking to somebody, and they say like, "Oh, he reminded me of Alexander Pierce, the Winter Soldier, because he's just like a bad guy in a suit, right? And he's a military guy. It's it's like maybe a government thing at one point. All of this different stuff, and that's true. Like I did get that, but like Alexander Pierce is just kind of like, okay, I'm actually Hydra, and you know what I think? Like, I'm just a wolf in sheep's clothing. Whereas there was no hiding who Ray Winstone was. You saw him and you're like, Dreykov is gross.
Yes.
And it really strongly worked for me. His confrontation with Natasha, like his monologuing was like, that worked really well. I loved that Natasha, like, she breaks her own nose because he can't do it. So like, she needs him to like have the power, quote unquote, to like over her so she can have the power over him. But he's so weak that he can't even do that himself. Like there's a lot of really cool layered stuff happening by the end of the film.
He is really one of the best villains that they've ever had. You've said so much that I want to +1 everything you said, because it is so very much of its time and very much for the moment, but timeless at the same time, right? Because like the subjugation of women that they did a really nice job of handling allegorically and metaphorically, using the widows as a figure of women like around the world.
And it's never too overt, which you know what I mean? Like, nobody ever turns to the camera and is like, it's just like this, just so you are aware. The most like on the nose thing was how much he looked like Harvey Weinstein to me. Yeah, but you know what? That was okay,
and
though.
that was okay too. Exactly,
that was okay.
Exactly. Yeah, if that's the most on the nose thing, then you're doing great. It had the right amount of subtlety, for a mass market blockbuster film, and it was really, really well done. I thought it was way more thought provoking than I expected it to be. Again, I didn't know what to expect going in, and it was so thought provoking and so sincere and earnest, like you said, is the right way to put it. I was really, really happy with this movie. I especially considering how, I've been more excited for Marvel films. I've been like, more, had more anticipation for an Infinity War and an Endgame, for example. And it blew me away in terms of expectations. And interestingly, at the box office, in its opening weekend, it did like 80 million in the US, which post-COVID is actually quite good, considering that like 20% of US theaters still aren't open.
Right.
And it did another like 80 million worldwide outside the US. And then it did like 60 million on Disney Plus worldwide. Yep. Which is so interesting. And I think will have real implications for the whole idea of, do they keep doing windows where before a movie is available outside of theaters and all that kind of stuff? Like, this is the most successful day and date release that we've seen so far. And I think it's really, really interesting that we might be getting more of this.
Well, I mean, the day and date release, I think about like people like my sister who has 2 little kids at home, who like loves going to see the Marvel films, who loves watching and all this stuff. And like, she still would not have been able to see it if like it was normal world. Like you got a 3-year-old and a less than 1-year-old. Like it ain't happening.
Right.
Like it's just too many balls in the air. But you could put on a movie at 9:00 at night.
Right.
And
for 2 people, like for her and her husband, it's going to cost us pretty much as much as it would have at the theater. Less without snacks and stuff.
Right. But whatever. I mean, like you don't even have to get this. The snacks are going to cost you extra no matter what. Mm-hmm. It's not like they're wrapped up into the movie ticket price. Right. So in a weird way, you're saving money.
That's what I'm saying. It's less than like a night out at the theater.
Yeah,
and you don't need a babysitter.
It's true, but also, then you could still be part of the cultural conversation. Like, and that's what I think is the important part that people aren't thinking about. Like, yeah, if you can go to the theater, go to the theater.
Sure.
Support the people who work there. Like see it on the big screen. It's a better viewing experience, like we said at the beginning. Like nobody's interrupting you. Nobody's doing this. Nobody's doing that. But at the end, like now we're not leaving people out. You know, like now, like people who just couldn't get there, who couldn't make it.
Yeah.
Now they can.
How many of your friends? I've heard this time after time over the last several years. You know, as especially as over the last, let's say, 10 years, as my friends have been having kids, right? Like it's been so many of my friends are like, oh yeah, I used to be the guy who saw movies, but like I haven't seen a movie in 8 years. You know, whatever. I haven't seen a new movie in so many years because I got kids. And that was just sort of an accepted, like how are we going to get to a theater? But if this paradigm shifts like this, then that'll be, you know, that will, you're right, that will put those people can be part of the conversation again.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Taskmaster, because that was it's been a little controversial online. I don't know if you've been following it at all. Taskmaster is apparently beloved. Who knew? And so he's kind of like the Deathstroke of Marvel. So he, you know, the main character, something Masters, I think, I can't remember his name. You know, he mimics anybody that he can see.
Yes.
He was really big in the comics after New 52. He was in the PS4 not New 52, Civil War.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like,
same time.
Hold up.
Well, I don't know what was happening there. Big in the comics. Post Civil War. You know, he was in the new Spider-Man game for PS4, so he's kind of been in the cultural conversation amongst nerds for a bit. And so in this twist, to a lot of people it's kind of like the Mandarin in Iron Man 3 all over again, where it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You like can't, you know. But here's the thing: I don't think anybody cares about Masters so and so. They care about Taskmaster,
right?
That persona, and I think that's kind of where Marvel maybe was trying to go for. So what did you think about the twist before I talk about it myself?
I knew nothing about the character. So I came in completely fresh on that, to the point where I was at the beginning of the movie, I was trying to figure out, okay, who's behind the mask, right? And I'm like, is that going to be David Harbour? Like, I really knew nothing. Like, I absolutely knew nothing. And when it was clear that it wasn't going to be him, at that point, I was like, the only person I could think of was the daughter, because that was the only, again, like, you know, you watch enough of these movies, you start to know like how things are going to come back around. Something that's mentioned in Act 1 is going to pay off in Act 3.
No body, they're not dead.
Exactly.
Right? And then here we go. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I didn't really have, you know, I don't have very strong thoughts on it because I don't have an attachment to the character already.
Well, that's right. So even just as a storytelling device, do you think that was like, oh, it's his daughter? Like, yeah.
It worked in a way to show how completely heartless he is. How it just absolutely nothing, like he is void of human compassion. It worked in that sense, but you know, she wasn't a character. Like she wasn't a villain. She was basically a robot.
Correct. Yeah. I agree with that. And so I do like the character of Taskmaster. I really like the idea of Taskmaster better, like the costume's cool, the mimicry, which I thought was kind of there in this movie. There's like a couple of like, oh, they jump up at the same time. Oh, he's got Black Panther claws and this, but I didn't really feel like she was fighting like other people in the MCU. And I thought the kind of letdown for me is that I didn't see the Taskmaster do the mimicry thing to like the extent that like would have been really cool to see.
It was not really clear, to be honest.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't very clear. And I thought that, so here's this movie where Natasha loses the Avengers, right? She's lost the Avengers. And now you have this chance for her to have to fight the Avengers in some way, shape, or form. Like she's got to like, you know, she has to confront them, even though it's not them, because she's got to fight like quote like someone in the style. And it was almost a missed opportunity to see that happen, because it would have like helped her character arc, you know, where she's like dealing with family and she's dealing with this thing and that thing and all this stuff, and like who am I and what am I after and all this stuff, you know. And then here we are, and like she has the ability to fight someone who fights like Captain America or Black Panther or Spider-Man or Bucky or Hawkeye, and like Taskmaster does the things, like they've got the shield and the claws and the this, and like, but I didn't really feel like the choreography part was there in a lot of ways. Sometimes it was very evident that's a Spider-Man move, that's a Captain America move, but not to the extent that it was in my mind at all times, and I know that's what this character's supposed to do.
Right.
So that was kind of missed. I liked the twist. I liked that it was daughter for the same reasons that you said. You know, there's Dreykov is just so depraved and awful that it's all this stuff, but because the Taskmaster part of it, the mimicry, felt unnecessary because they didn't really use it. So I was like, could have been some rando in a suit called Red Widow.
It could have been anybody. Yeah.
And you just like, and yeah. So the outcry for me is not so much an outcry, but just so much of like kind of a waste of a character.
Kind of. It's
kind of a waste of a concept. Not even a character.
That's the
just
thing.
A waste of a concept.
It wasn't really the character. It's a sort of now, increasingly typical thing that we see in comic book movies where maybe they take a name or a concept and radically change the character, but it's like, yeah, no, this was Taskmaster because that's the name, but like they only use the name, like they really realistically only use the name. And that has bothered me more when it's a character that I care deeply about, but when it's a character that I don't really have any attachment to, I'm just sort of like, okay. Oh, so they didn't really do the mimicry thing. All right, I guess that's a choice. That's probably the weakest thing about the movie. But again, if that's the weakest thing, then
it's still a good movie.
You're doing great.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like technically, the mimicry thing is there. It's just not. It's just as visually cued or over the top as maybe it should have.
That's it. I think it needed more visual cues, like to show that it was a Spider-Man move. Like I feel like you needed to see, Tom Holland do that same move and like Natasha having a flashback or something, otherwise it's most viewers, I would say, are not going to recognize the choreography and say, oh, that's a Spider-Man move. If there was more of a, like when she did the head whipping thing that Yelena made fun of her for, and then we see the head whipping thing coming from Taskmaster, like in a side by side kind of fashion, that might get it across more. But yeah, they needed more of a visual language to express that, and they couldn't find it or decided it wasn't necessary. The thing I will say about that is that because Taskmaster was a more understated villain, they don't run into the problem of having too many villains that so many superhero movies have run into, right? They don't have the Spider-Man 3 problem.
Correct. No, that is very true. Because it's just a bodyguard. It's basically Bane and Batman and Robin.
Yes.
You took the basic concept and that was it.
Yes. That's a good example. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like it is Bane, but it's not really
barely.
Bane. Yeah. Like it's barely there. So, but that's okay. You can't have everything. But no, solid 4 out of 5. I thought the music in this film was great too. It was really beautifully shot. I just I wish that there would be more. Unfortunately, like that's kind of the downside. I mean, she's been in tons of these other movies. It's not like I've never seen Black Widow in a movie before, but I liked the tone and the concept, and I would like to see more. But who knows? And I also want to know who that Captain America was that Red Guardian fought in the 80s, right? Because that was the whole thing in prison. I don't think he's lying. I don't think he's lying. No, because if there was a Captain America in the 50s, there's a super soldier in the 50s, right? Because we learned that in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Okay.
So what's to say that there aren't more other little Captain Americas that the government has tried to get going through all those decades leading up to the de-thawing of Steve Rogers?
I don't buy it because I don't buy it because there was a super soldier experiment in the 50s, but he wasn't actually Captain America like out there in public, was he? I think they were experimenting, but that they never made him Captain America.
Never, no, that's right, because they said like they'll never make a black man Captain America.
Correct.
That's kind of the thing. You're right, but I didn't say like the next one doesn't have to be black.
But if he was fighting a communist, Captain Stranger Things, then
Red Guardian,
Captain Stranger Things, then Captain Hellboy, then he's public, and I don't, and like when they announced the new Captain America in Falcon and Winter Soldier, it seemed pretty clear that was the first Captain America since Steve Rogers.
Yeah,
they were laying to rest sort of the Steve Rogers shield and saying like farewell to a hero, and now we have a new one. So I don't think there was a new Captain America, but maybe there were super soldiers in between who didn't, as part of like an MK Ultra sort of secret project. But I don't think there was an actual Captain America.
I'll take that. I think that's fair. Let's wrap it up, Frank. Where can the people find us?
Russia.
Okay. If people don't want to get stuck somewhere, where can they find us?
Okay. Well, I mean, you can find us in Russia and really all over the world by going to beerwithgeeks.com or on Apple Podcasts or Overcast, Spotify, Google, Amazon, all the podcast directories. You'll find Beer with Geeks. You'll find all the Thought Bubble audio shows, and you can subscribe to those there and listen. You can find if you want to see what kind of shows we have to offer, head on over to thoughtbubbleaudio.com. And if you like what we do, you can support us by kicking us $1 a month at patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio. And that helps fund all of the shows. You can also email us if you have thoughts at beerwithgeeks@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at beerwithgeeks. And if you're enjoying the show and you want to leave some feedback, an Apple Podcasts review would be awesome, and we would love that. Really anywhere, a rating or review in any podcast directory you use. But Apple Podcasts is definitely the biggest one, and definitely the one that makes the biggest impact if you can leave us some feedback there. So
nice. All right. Well, Frank, this was a blast. So until next time, cheers.